Okay, so you've started an e-commerce brand and you're probably wondering, okay, what are the next steps, right? How can I get more eyeballs on my brand? How can I get more website visitors and really just get these products to sell well? If you're sort of at that stage and you're wondering what are the next steps, you definitely come to the right place, because in today's video, I'm gonna be walking you through step by step exactly how I built out a robust influencer marketing system for my e-commerce brand, as well as really just some strategies that I've seen a lot of other successful e-commerce brands use to do the same thing. So you're probably really aware by now that influencer marketing is an essential part of your business. But as a newer e-commerce brand, you're probably a little bit afraid to take the first steps, or maybe you just don't even know where to get started, right? Well, it's actually not as difficult as it may seem, because I'll actually be screen sharing and walking you through the entire way of how I've personally done this and how you can do the same as well. It's a really, really efficient and low cost way of getting your brand in front of a lot more people in a really short time frame. And I would argue that in the beginning stages, it's actually one of the most powerful things you can do to start growing your e-commerce brand and really get those first few sales coming in. Now, before we actually jump into all the screen sharing and SOPs and procedures, I definitely want to take a step back a little bit and clarify that there are a ton of different ways to do gifted collabs. The first way is essentially no strings attached, where you're just gifting a product or several products to an influencer.
Is that the one?
I hope so.
And you're really intentionally selecting those products for that specific influencer so that they have the highest chance of actually enjoying using the product. And you're doing this in hopes that they'll actually post about your product and really just give their genuine thoughts about using it.
Okay.
And this can definitely work. This can definitely be a very natural way to work with influencers. But I much prefer actually having an agreement in place and having some foundational terms and conditions so that even if they do post, they're not just kind of posting whatever they want. I still want the content to fit a certain set of criteria so that we can actually repurpose it for our socials and for ads and for our website. And so I much prefer doing the second method, which is actually having them sign an agreement before starting the collaboration. Keep in mind, either way can really work, and it really is just up to you and how careful you are about the process. But for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna be going through the second method because I just think it's a much safer play. And it's definitely a lot more efficient for your time and budget, and you really don't have to do as much guesswork in this process. So without further ado, let's actually just jump into this, and I'll start my screen share and walk you through the entire thing. Let's go. Okay, so here we are inside the master SOPs doc that I built out for my jewelry brand. And this is the exact stuff that I've trained my team to do and the step-by-step process that you can leverage as well. So you can see that there's different sections for different parts of the process. So we have an entire section on lead sourcing, which is just essentially how you find these leads or these influencers to work with and reach out to. You can see that I also included some different qualifications and really what we're looking for in an ideal influencer. And then we have the data entry section, which is just me explaining how you actually put this data into the spreadsheet here. You can see that there's actually no actual data here because I've actually erased that because that's confidential and that's part of our company information. So I'm just basically giving you guys a templated version of this that you can use as well. And then down here, I've actually left this outreach section blank because I'm actually going to be walking you through the entire process in this video. So there's not really a need for an extra Loom video here. And then we have the interest and finalization section, which is just essentially all the different types of scenarios that could pop up, whether they respond with interest or they respond with a counter offer or any other scenario like that. I've actually included different ways to respond to these and really just take care of it inside your master spreadsheet. We also have a link to the actual collab agreement that I mentioned earlier. And I've actually gone ahead and opened it up here, and you'll be getting to see exactly what I put into these agreements. And I'll also leave a link to a templated version of that in the description as well. So let's actually just jump straight into this. It is a pretty straightforward process. You really just have to follow these steps that I'm giving you. So we can actually just start at all these different methods to actually find influencers. And I think in the editing process, I'm gonna just put up a screen recording on my phone, and you'll get to see like how I actually use suggested pages and competitor tags and hashtags and stuff like that. But what these mean is essentially all these kind of just play together and really just feed into each other. All these three methods actually really just feed into each other and help you find more and more influencers. So let's say you start off with using competitor tags, which is just simply going to a competitor Instagram page, going to their tagged section and just looking at all the posts that have them tagged, right? So a lot of these posts are going to be influencers that they've either paid to collab with or that they've done gifted collabs with. And it's really important here that if you're doing gifted collabs, you tend to go more towards the smaller micro influencers, because the bigger the influencer, generally the more they're going to demand in return for a post. And a lot of them will start charging, maybe anywhere from 50 to $200 to collab. And it's just not really what we're going for at the moment. So the easier picks are definitely going to be the influencers that have maybe anywhere between even just a couple thousand followers to maybe up to 10K. I think that's a really, really ideal range to reach out to. And those types of influencers are generally more open to working on a gifted collab or free basis. So this is one method, is just looking through the competitor tags. You can then also use that pool of leads, right? And then look at their suggested pages. You open up that tab and then you can go straight down, just keep scrolling and looking at different recommended accounts that are similar to that account. And then you can really get really deep in the rabbit hole through that method, right? So this is similar to the stuff that I do to actually find e-commerce brands to reach out to. It's really the same idea. Just make sure that you're actually going back and exhausting all the lists in full, because it's really easy to, let's say, for example, you start with influencer A, you click on their suggested, and then you find another influencer, and then you click on their suggested, but you're going very broad, but you're not actually exhausting the entire suggested list from the initial influencer A, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you go through every single possible suggested list so that you're getting the most out of this method, because you're probably going to miss a lot of other influencers that would have been good fits. So that's another method. You can also utilize hashtags as well. So if you're doing jewelry, you can use hashtag jewelry. You can, for example, one of our big competitors would be Missouri. So we would do like hashtag Fine Crew, which is the name of their ambassador group, basically. There's tons of different hashtags that you can try out. Try looking at, in particular, what your competitors are using for their hashtags. And then you'll probably find a lot of potential influencers to reach out to as well. So here are just some of our qualifications. I'm not going to go through every single one in depth, but I'll just go through this just so you have a feel for what you should be putting into yours as well. So I mentioned that they should have a classy, elegant, intelligent aesthetic. They should use they should have effective use of neutrals for a clean and modern look. They should have lighting that is able to show off the jewelry. So we definitely don't want to go for pages that have too dark of themes. They have to be style conscious, obviously, and have a more, they can have a more casual style, but they should still show a certain level of maturity with their outfits. I mentioned a little bit about the age range here and the types of content they post. So these are just some things that can get you thinking about what types of qualifications that you want to put in for your brand as well. And then down here, we have the data entry section. Once you actually find a couple of influencers that fit these criteria, you can go ahead and actually start putting them into this spreadsheet. So the first thing you want to do is enter their Instagram profile URL in this link column here. So over here, just for easy access. And then you want to go ahead and enter their Instagram username in the username column. So over here. And then on mobile, this is really important because you actually can't pull this up on your computer. So you also want to have your phone next to you at all times. On mobile, you want to locate their email address if it's available and enter it in the email column. So this is generally for people that have business accounts. And I find that a lot of even micro influencers nowadays have business accounts. And even if they don't have it there, they probably have their business email listed somewhere in their story highlights or something. Somewhere in the profile, they're going to have a way to reach out to them. If all else fails and you really can't find their email, you can just go ahead and reach out through DM. But I definitely suggest email because to a lot of influencers, it's just a more urgent type of platform, and it's something that they generally take more seriously. And then you also obviously want to enter their first and last name if it's available on their profile, as well as their follower count, just for reference again as well. So that's relatively straightforward. I think the outreach process is probably the most intense part of this video. And even that is relatively easy as well. So if we actually jump into our Lemlist account for a second, you can see that we only really ran influencer campaigns throughout September. We kind of put a pause on that because we've been focusing on a couple different things other than e-commerce. But back when we actually did it back in mid to late September, we got some amazing results with this. So you can see that we, in this campaign, we had 10 emails sent out. All of them opened the email. This was actually a glitch. I think this should have been 4 or 5 responses, and then 4 of them we marked as interested. And so if you actually look at this email, for example, I'll actually walk you guys through the script as well. So let's open up step 1. You can see that I'm having one of my team members write from her perspective and using her name and everything. So we start off with hi, influencer name. My name is Emin and I'm the influencer marketing assistant at Shima. So this is where you start off with a personalized first line. Really, this is up to you whether you want to make it personalized or whether you just want to use something generic. But in this case, I think this was a more generic sentence just in the interest of time. So we usually start off with something like, love your unique fashion and beauty content. I can definitely see why you've already grown such a big following. We would love to collab with you. So this is really straightforward, nothing like too complicated. You don't have to overthink this personalized first line. Just make sure that it is a decent icebreaker and that it mentions some of their content and why you're interested in working with them. So next paragraph down, we have the sentence here, which is we can offer 4 to 5 of your favorite pieces from our Vermeil collection in exchange for 1 Instagram or TikTok post. I would actually recommend that you clarify the platform now. This was just earlier stages of us testing this out, and we found that it was a lot clearer and it caused less confusion if we actually just listed one platform or another. We just picked the platform that they had the most followers on and just the most engagement on. And then would this be something you're interested in? So this is a relatively straightforward sentence too. So you're basically just saying you can offer X amount of products from a specific collection, or you can actually just offer to pick out those products for them. We just liked giving them the freedom to choose, but we still limited them to a specific collection so that they weren't, picking the absolute most expensive products and stuff like that. So we still had a little bit of a restriction there, but they were able to choose whichever ones they wanted out of that collection. If so, please send me the links to your items, your wish list from our site. And then we mentioned also wish list here because for future collaborations, we want to have a record of the other products that they would enjoy receiving as well, besides the ones in this collection, along with your full name, address, and phone number. Let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to working with you. So again, this is a really, really straightforward script, but it works surprisingly well, especially if you offer multiple pieces. I think it's really, really enticing. And you're really just keeping it as simple as possible and really just having a friendly tone, not overly formal or not overly casual. I think this type of tone works really great. So this is just a simple first email. If you want, you can actually schedule follow-ups as well. So you can just include simple bumps. I don't really think I have to go through an entire script for that because it's really straightforward. And you can also see in this campaign specifically, we didn't even schedule any follow-ups whatsoever. We literally just used the first email here and all of them ended up opening anyway, and we got a really high response rate and interest rate from that. So that is essentially the outreach process. Nothing too fancy or crazy. I think the actual importing leads into Lemlist part is really straightforward as well. I think I'll also list a separate video from my course, or I'll list a separate snippet of that video at least. And I'll show you guys how to actually set this up in real time and actually import all the lead data over here so that you can make the process easy for yourself. And that essentially is just downloading a CSV or a modified CSV version of this file. So for example, if you have 100 leads in here and you just want to send emails to 10, you would create a separate spreadsheet and then copy all that data over and just export that CSV file and then import it back into Lemlist, and then you can schedule the campaign from there. But that is some more technical stuff, and I don't think I have to cover this in this video. Just know that your job is essentially to find a bunch of leads and just send a really well-crafted step 1 email here. And then in this final section, I detail all the different types of scenarios and responses that could possibly occur. So if any response has strong interest, you want to go ahead and star the email in your inbox and enter interested under status. So I'm actually just going to use an example here. Let's just put mine. So let's say that, you're trying to reach out to me as an influencer to collab with. If I'm interested, you would literally just type in like this. And then for any paid only counter offers, so if I tell you, look, I'm not down to do gifted right now, but I would love to do a paid collaboration, you also want to start the email and enter paid only under status. So same thing over here as well. For any at capacity responses, so if I say, look, I'm open to this, but right now I'm just really, really booked, you just enter capacity under the status column. For any response that is uninterested outright, just enter not interested under status. And also one step that I actually didn't write out explicitly here is you want to unsubscribe them from your lem list as well. So I think if you go into editor, you can actually hit this unsubscribe section here and just manually enter their email address if they're not interested and they don't want to receive any further emails from you. So here, let me actually put uninterested responses, enter email into unsubscribe section in lem list. And then if the influencer replies back with the affirmation of a gifted collab and a wish list, so if they enter basically all the information and they respond back right away and they're like, okay, I'm down to do this, here is a sample response. So it doesn't have to fit this exact format, but this is a way that I would do it. So hi name, thank you for all the info. I'm glad you like our jewelry. Here's our collab agreement. And then you just hyperlink your agreement here. I prefer using hello sign because it's just really straightforward and they can e-sign everything. Please let me know if you have any questions or need clarification. Once that's completed, we'll get the product shipped out to you ASAP. Looking forward to working with you, and then you sign off. So let's actually dive into this collab agreement real quick. And again, as I mentioned, I'll actually link this in the description as well. But it's a really straightforward agreement, nothing too crazy. I just have this background section to provide context. So client is of the opinion that the influencer has the necessary qualifications, experience, and abilities, et cetera, agreeable to providing such services to the client on the terms and conditions listed or set out in this agreement. And then we have these services provided here. And it's really important that if you're using a contract, you have to get clear on exactly what you need from them and the time frame and stuff like that. So in this agreement specifically, it's for Instagram gifted collabs. So I mentioned that they have to create and publish one feed post. So not a reel or not a story post or anything. It's an actual feed post, right? On Instagram to expand brand awareness and drive traffic for Shima within 10 days of receiving the product. So I'm giving them quite a strict time frame here. Ensure that the post features Shima products only. Other branded items are allowed if and only if they complement the featured Shima products. And grant full usage rights of this content to Shima, including but not limited to publishing on Shima's official social media accounts, ads, and marketing materials. So this is just basically saying that they hand over all the rights to the content to us. And then the rest is really almost just boilerplate language. Again, I'm not going to go through the entire agreement here, but just know that you can repurpose this however you want for your own influencer program as well. Just a disclaimer here, this is not legal advice or anything. This is just a template that you can take inspiration from and hopefully make your job a little bit easier here. So once they're done and they're satisfied with this and there's no further modifications needed, they can just go ahead and click to put their signature on it and then enter their name, and then everything else is just legally binding from there. So hopping back over to the SOPs document, you want to go ahead and enter their full delivery address under the address column once you get it. So this is just the address that you're shipping the products to. And then once the agreement is signed, you want to change the status to awaiting shipment. And then basically this is just like how we do it. So the way that I do it is, since I'm actually packing the products myself, I would send a message over to one of my team members whenever the tracking number is ready. And then we would actually enter the tracking number under the notes section over here, just so that we can keep track of the status of the package and where it's located, and we can make sure that it's actually delivering on time. And then after we update the spreadsheet, we go ahead and send another email just to notify the influencer that the package has actually been shipped out. And then we enter their tracking number here, and then you also put the time frame that it should arrive within.
If there's no notification of posting after 10 days of receiving the products or whatever time frame it is that you chose, and you can't find one through the tag post, you want to go ahead and just send a gentle reminder email. And then for me, I actually go ahead and manually update the status to delivered once the products arrive, and then update the status to posted once a post is published. So that way you can just see how many posts you've had so far and how many have actually been successful collabs and whether any have dropped off. So that's basically it for gifted collabs. It's really, really straightforward. I think the most value out of this video was by far me sharing the actual email script that we used, but even that is like really just common sense, and it just required a little bit of tinkering and split testing and taking inspo from how some other brands do things. So I basically reverse engineered the entire process from there. So again, really straightforward process. If you have any questions whatsoever, please make sure to drop them in the comment section down below. And also please make sure to actually download these or make a copy of this document, for example, and take a look at all the resources that I've attached in the description so that you're not actually having to go back and forth with this video and try to copy everything like that. So I've already listed everything that you need in the description, and it's really hopefully just going to be a really easy process for you. So I'm looking forward to hearing about all the results that you guys get from this. And if you do start getting results, please list them in the comments or shoot me a quick DM. I'd love to see how this is actually working out for your brand as well. So that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this, please leave a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Again, any questions, leave them in the comment section and I'll try to get back to them as quickly as I can. And I'll see you guys in the next one.